whether it is possible to speak truth all the time. Just think the other way, whether it is possible to speak untruth all the time. And then you will have an answer that no, we have to mix both. Even that is stupid, because it never happens like that. Things are better kept simple when you speak truth. You don't, for beginners, for starters, you don't need to have phenomenal memory. I mean, if you speak truth, you don't need to remember what you told to which person and all that. Everything becomes very simple. Life is much more simple. And we don't need to achieve great things. Whatever I can achieve, I can achieve. I don't need to pose as someone which I am not. This dirtlessness, this cleaning leads to cheerfulness. Like if you use good soap, suddenly your face becomes bright. It definitely becomes brighter. Similarly, dirtlessness leads to cheerfulness. And there is an oft-quoted saying of a saint. Generally, about religious people, the perception is that you should be like, and now and then smile, like it gives you more aura, that halo is more widened, like you smile like this. Then, oh, Swamiji smiled looking at you, there is something is going to happen. So even Swami doesn't know, but it gives you more appeal and you keep quiet like that. Gambhir, very serious, somber appearance and all that. So there was this person. Can anybody tell me who this is? Of course, I don't expect that you know, but still. Saint Teresa of Avila was a great saint. In many ways, she brought a reform movement in the church, also for women. And this is the oldest portrait of the saint available. She belonged to the 16th century. She died, passed away in 16th century. And interestingly, there is a belief in Christianity of incorruptible. Many saints' body don't get corrupt. So her body is also preserved without any embalming, and it is not corrupt. It's as though she is just lying down in sleep. It's wonderful. You can search for it in the net, and it's really, in YouTube you will find a movie about incorruptibles. It's really inspiring. I mean, just to know that these things are still possible. I mean, they exist. There are many things we don't know. So she is credited with this statement: a sad nun is a bad nun. This was also often quoted by Ranganathanandaji. She says that a sad nun is a bad nun, and I am afraid, more afraid of one unhappy sister than a crowd of evil spirits. You see? Cheerfulness. Just be cheerful. We have the often repeated saying, so that it almost is a cliche now, that a smile takes only 13 muscles and a frown 36, etc. So you just smile and half the problem is solved for you and for people surrounding you. I mean, most of the people, they keep their faces as though they are suffering from severe bouts of constipation. I don't know why, but even constipation has got many medicine, but they can, like in Bengali we have a very good expression for that, Banglar Pans. So why should they keep their face like that? I don't know. Like, what is it going to achieve? You have Swami Vivekananda putting it very, very strongly here. I'll ask you to read this actually. This he says when he is commenting upon the Patanjali Yoga Sutra. He says when he is commenting upon the 33rd Sutra of the 2nd chapter. He says, by the process of cleanliness, the mind becomes concentrated and cheerful. The first stage that you are becoming religious is that you are becoming cheerful. When a man is gloomy, that may be dyspepsia, means indigestion. But it is not religion. The strong, the well-knit, the young, the healthy, The daring alone are fit to be yogis. To the yogi, everything is bliss. Every human face that he sees brings cheerfulness to him. That is a sign of a virtuous man. Misery is caused by sin and by no other cause. What business have you with clouded faces? It is terrible. If you have a clouded face, do not go out that day. Shut yourself up in your room. What right have you to carry this disease out into the world? When your mind has become controlled, you have control over the whole body. Instead of being a slave to this machine, the machine is your slave. Instead of this machine being able to drag the mind down, it becomes its greatest helpmate. Very strongly he says, better go into your room and close all doors and don't spread this terrible disease. So this is a very practical example. Most of the times just stay cool. Cool. It's a wonderful word. The American expression, cool. Just be cool. Whatever is going to happen will happen anyway. That is, some people believe that way. And whatever you are going to do, you will do anyway. So just be cool. And that will solve a lot of your problems. At least it will remove the problems of the other person. A smile can produce a lot of effect. It's most of the times infectious. And I read it long back in a book, but even now I see that if you ask somebody, how do you do, or how are you, this question may be the first one he has encountered all day, he or she. So that is very important. Cheerfulness again is a angelic quality, as we would have gathered now. But there is another thing, if we remember the shloka, Jnana Yoga Vyavastitihi. So there is this talk about jnana, that is knowledge. But what is knowledge? Knowledge generally we perceive in a very, we have a traditional, very rigid understanding of knowledge, that something I know is knowledge. But our tradition, or the world traditions, have a different take on knowledge. So generally this is what we think of knowledge as. And you of all people will be knowing it better. But knowledge is not this. Knowledge is actually understanding yourself, or the position you are into. Understanding your position is knowledge. You understand your position better and you are more knowledgeable. You understand your position less and you are less knowledgeable. And you understand this better by taking help of the ancient wisdom, or in our case the manual. It could be the Bhagavad Gita, it could be the Bible, it could be the Quran, or it could be the Zendavesta, whatever. Once you understand this intellectually, then you have the experiential understanding. Like before marriage you have the intellectual understanding that marriage is wonderful. After marriage you have the experiential understanding, I don't know what, depends on the person. So realizing that nature which you have understood to be your own by focusing your mind, or the other word used is concentration. How do you concentrate? How do you focus? It depends. The best thing is to just love the thing, whatever you are doing, and you focus. I hardly need any effort to focus when I am watching a movie by, what is his name? Madhu Bhandarkar. So you immediately are all focused. There is another very important angelic quality which we need to nurture, and which nowadays we are forgetting or we don't nurture, and that is charity, which in Sanskrit is called dana. But before that we need to understand what is charity. There is a saying in an Indian language about donating something, like a person went to Ganesha temple, and he offered a coconut which he actually took from the wayside shop, just took it, He took the coconut and offered it there. So he did not spend even one paisa. So that is one kind of charity. You may think most of us are very charitable that way. We will tell people to donate because it's anyway other person's money. So charity basically is not that. Charity is giving something belonging to you. So that's the condition. It should first of all belong to you. Giving something belonging to you to others to whom it does not belong to. Very clear definition of charity. Something which belongs to you, you give to somebody to whom in the first place it does not belong to. We don't do this. We have lot of reasons to give why we should not do this, but we don't even care to find reasons for doing this. Charity is something totally not found, not only in India but all over the world. It is a very rare commodity. I will not say totally not found, but very rare commodity. India has got legends of charity. People who gave their hands, their shoulders, their lives and all that. You find Indian mythology filled with that, but I am talking about present day India. We have so many. You ask a person to give some, academicians all over the world, particularly in the Western world, they will be very happy to share knowledge. But in India, if you ask a professor to come and give a lecture, academic that is, immediately she will ask, how much money am I going to get? You ask a professor, you please contribute an article to a journal. Suppose you are asking it for free. Then the person will immediately say, how much money? Even for book review. So it's not commercial. I am talking about academic people. In the West, you don't have any money paid for academic activity. It's just understood. You don't get any money for your academic activity. You do a peer review, you are not given any money. Peer review just give just for your profession. You just do so that the quality of the profession is kept up. Quality of writings in that profession and the journal is kept up. But in India, you will hardly get that kind of stuff. So we are not charitable in many ways, though we have a wonderful tradition of charity. What are different kinds of charity? There are different kinds. First, of course, is gift of life. Rakta dan, Jivan dan, very famous adage, quotation. So gift of life, you give your life to somebody. To save the other person's life, you give your life. That's a wonderful act of charity. Then there is the charity of giving material needs. It could be food, it could be clothing, it could be just money, pure. It is charity. What we need nowadays the most is this charity, emotional charity. You have a lot of people coming to ashramas nowadays just to talk. They are not bothered about God, they are not bothered about spirituality. They don't have people within their house or without to whom they can talk, to whom they can share their feelings. It's a very sorry state our society has come to, but people come, not only in India, all over the world. One Swami who is assistant in a Hollywood center suddenly gets a call at 2 o'clock in the night, and the person says, Swamiji, I want to come, and this lady says, I want to come and meet you and talk. Why? Because this lady's son, in whose house she was living, suddenly throws her out because she went on sermonizing about how many girlfriends a fellow should have and all that. So this is the kind of, so suddenly she comes and says, Swamiji, I am without house now and all. So this Swami is listening to all the wailings of this woman. We need to give some time to other people so that they can share their feelings, they can share their sufferings, they can share their joys. So charity by gift of emotional needs, some emotional support, that is what is very much required in today's world. Then of course we have the gift of intellectual needs. Somebody calls you, give a lecture, just honorary lecture, go and give, just share your knowledge. You do some kind of help. I know a group of students who in Bangalore, they have purchased a few computers, and they teach this computing to poor children, underprivileged children who cannot access decent computer training. So you can do a lot of things. You can share your knowledge. You can share it for the betterment of the world, for betterment of people around you. These are things which you can straight away do. I mean, you need not go and sit for meditation and doze and have the illusion that you did wonderful meditation. Most of the time you are dozing, but after that you said, oh, wonderful, because you might not have had good sleep for many days, so you think that you had wonderful meditation. Instead of that, you can do this. This will give you a good feel, and it is also good. And for those who can, the highest form of charity or gift is gift of spirituality. But unfortunately, most of us can't do that, because you have to be, spiritual. And what is spiritual actually? Spiritual does not mean religious. There's a difference between religious and spiritual. Spiritual means you cling on to something which is not matter. You have a positive alienation and a positive conviction and positive realization of a non-material force. You have a non-material experience. That doesn't mean ghosts, of course, because ghosts also matter, at least according to the Indian tradition. So spiritual means something which is beyond all that, and when you have that experience, you have spirituality. Whenever we travel in vehicles, this is the scene which we always encounter. But what we do is we just close our windows and just look at the traffic light when it will switch, and we go away. There was again another one great film, Traffic, on this whole thing made by Madhur Bhandarkar. Anyway, that fellow doesn't know I am talking about his films. So much of advertisement for free. So this one person asked me, should we give money to beggars or not? I again put a counter question. When we go to a Subway, or when we go to Pizza Hut, when we go to McDonald's, do we think so much about the price? In fact, the stuff they are selling me, I can get it done wonderfully well, the same stuff or maybe even better in my house for probably half the price. Do I bargain there? When I go to Big Bazaar, do I bargain? Why should I bargain with the auto rickshaw? Poor fellow, he doesn't have anybody. Why should I bargain with the rickshaw puller? And particularly in Kolkata, you have these people who are actually pulling you, human rickshaw pullers. They bargain, you see, they just bargain for 5 rupees, and this fellow goes into a metro or something like that. Metro means a mall, or there are so many malls, there's a South City mall, and just spends thousands of rupees, just like that. You don't bargain, you don't go to Pantaloons and bargain. So why should you bargain with these people? It doesn't make sense. It's not logical. I mean, I'm talking about logic all the while, and this is simply stupid thing to do. So why should I bargain? I have got some 1 rupee, 2 rupees, and that means a lot to these people. Forget about all the big crime and big what you call mafia going about that. You can't help it. If it is true, you can't help it. If it isn't true also, you can't help it. I mean, you can't do anything. This 1 rupee what you are going to give, even after the mafia thing, that person will get, that poor girl will get 10 paisa. So why do you bother so much? Just give some money. For all you know, this is what you spend for you spend more for your Coke or your Pepsi or whatever. So why do you bother so much? Whether you are giving 5 rupees or 10 rupees. Just give. What's there? Don't big logic. Just like Arjuna made so much logic about whether to fight or not. This fellow only started all the thing. And then he says that I will not fight and all, because if I fight this will happen, that will happen. Whenever more advocacy is coming, just remember that devil has entered you. The demon has entered you. Otherwise there is no need for all this advocacy. Simple. How do we become further angelic quality is by restraining our external sense organs. I say restraint because I understand not everybody can abstain, and you cannot abstain from all sense organs, at least you have to eat, otherwise you will die. But there should be a restraint. If not anything, at least for health reasons, you need restraint. If you don't sleep properly, if you do not have proper sleep, you are going to have heart attack. And this is known to be a known reason to cause heart attack. People who boast about being able to do with less hours of sleep, actually they are running the risk of heart attack. So that is one thing. If you oversleep, you have other problems. That of course is a rare commodity. Nobody has time nowadays to oversleep. All of us sleep less. Eat more. That's one way to counter sleep. Sleep deficiency is countered by eating more. You become obese. That's a common problem. You eat junk food, get triglycerides. Every second person nowadays has got triglyceride. Lipid profile test has become a wonderful business. So you have to have restraint. You have to avoid all the wonderful food. Then you have to have some kind of exertion. Many things. Restraint in using your eyes. There was a time when putting spectacle was considered some kind of inferior. People would used to go to great heights to avoid putting it. Nowadays it's become a fashion because there are so many people wearing that. So taking care of your eyes. After an age you have to, but before that, taking care. No, restraint is very important for health, for mental health, and also for emotional needs. Once, I give you an example. In Vidya Mandir, that's near Belur Math, we have a college and it has got a hostel also. So running a hostel is a horrible thing. So one boy suddenly understood that he has to leave and go away, and he was a very promising boy, very brilliant student. So the first thing the Swami told was feed him. So he had taken breakfast and it was lunch and he was just going to go away. He said, okay, first let him take food. And after having a belly full, this fellow's idea changed with all that pious and all that. This fellow said, no, I was just okay. Then he slept and whole thing was, most often than not, it happens like that. If you have a routine, if you have some kind of restraint in your life, you just sleep. Most of the problems solve. Just sleep over it. It just gets solved. And of course we have this I'm exceeding the time. No, I will have to go also. Huh? Restraint, yes. Of course we have the famous, so this is, we need to remember this, but here he says that speak no evil and see no evil, but I will say that even while you speak good or see good, you need to have restraint. Any questions?
Why you have restraint on when we are speaking good things? Free time?
Yeah, that's the main restraint. At least Gita says so, that even while you are speaking, you should have restraint. Not only that it takes time, it distracts you. People who speak more, generally they are not good in thinking. They can't contemplate more.
Is repeating included in speaking more? Or Ramakrishna said to Hridaya, "Or ki galo hai." And yaki kotha baar baar bolo.
No, that is repetition.
So that is not objection.
Repetition means it depends. If Sri Ramakrishna repeats, it has got a different dimension altogether.
It's all right.
No. What I mean is, suppose a nuclear scientist is repeating something about nuclear physics, it has got a different dimension. I am not talking only about Sri Ramakrishna. But if somebody, average person like me is repeating, I will find myself in Ranchi. So that's the difference. You understand that anyway.
Swami, would you please allow me and pardon me in advance for my ignorance. While discussing about fear, is there something called self-fear?
That's what. Self-fear means whenever you think that you are alone, you feel fear. Whenever you think, the two reasons, fear of the unknown, that also comes from within you. Whenever you think that you don't know something, you suddenly you go to examination hall and you find all the questions are something which you had not prepared for. Fear. So that is coming from inside. So there is nothing known as self-fear, but actually it's the fear of the unknown or fear of being lonely.
No, I am reading a few articles where fear of self was under quotation. Fear of self.
That's what. Fear of self is basically fear of unknown or fear of being lonely. Because self, what is self, even that we don't know. We generally don't know about ourselves. You see, all our sense organs are directed outside. We can find mistakes in everybody of us, around us, but not about ourselves. The only time we look into ourselves is in front of the mirror for different reasons.
So somebody teaches you and you pardon him. Does it not help the man to teach somebody else again?
See, we need to understand one thing, that we are not God. You see, what that person will do is that person's concern. But plain and simple, if I am going to not forgive that person, a very big part of my mind and intellect is always going to think of that person, which is not useful. Simply it is useless. What that other person is going to do is of no concern to me, because I am not God, I am not the creator. See, I am not here to be the good Samaritan or the police. I don't need to bother. And another thing, suppose somebody ditches somebody and this person is going to forget, and again that person is going to come. Believe me, that person will ditch again. You have to be prepared for that. A person is hurting you, you forgive and think that that person will not hurt you. No, the person is going to hurt you doubly, again and more forcefully. This is what is experienced in the real world. The more you forgive, the more that person will hurt. But by forgiving that person, you are actually getting peace and calm of mind for yourself. I mean, it doesn't make sense to think so much of that person who is of no use to you, who is only hurting you. Just forget and think of better things.
Fear of loneliness also. I mean, I have some experience that I have seen persons suffering, really suffering from, I believe that's some kind of loneliness. I mean, he or she just cannot stay alone. Needs to be somebody, talk to somebody. So, I mean,
See, they will have to think. You see, instead of running around, they will have to think. There is no other way but to think that loneliness can never be solved. Because, as I said, what happens, it might have been taken as a joke, but it is reality all the same, that if you marry, you are not being, then suddenly you have another person to whom you have to be sensitive. He or she, what she thinks, you have to be suddenly sensitive towards another person. Even a small thing you do wrong and that person is hurt. You see what I mean? So loneliness cannot be cured by having company. It's simply not possible. That has to be thought about, contemplated and thought about. Loneliness comes from inside.
that contemplation and thinking about, I mean, if one tries to start at a very late age for human beings, I think that's not possible anymore.
Better late than...
Better late, because the person I have in mind,
You see, it's better because at least while that person is going to die, at least at that time that person can die peacefully. Because all I can do is I get company, most of the times company brings trouble, it doesn't bring any solace. Apparently it may say, oh, I have somebody to, I go on, hang on, and then I say and all that. Then you are also inviting hanging on from that person. When that person will be in trouble, that person will come to you and start telling. So it's only an obligation kind of thing. That doesn't mean you should not be in relationships, but for different reasons. Relationships are generally for different reasons. You have a family, you need to have a family, many other things. But it doesn't solve loneliness. It can't. One thing I want to tell you, one thing I want to point out, whatever you saw in this presentation, though it was in English language, the whole thing has been simply lifted from the commentaries of Shankaracharya, Sridhara, Madhusudana Saraswati and Anandagiri. So I did not tell you in the beginning because you would have been mortally afraid, but this is what it is. So because he says you have put the full picture, it's not my work, but it is the work of the Acharyas. And this is how Swami Vivekananda wanted that we should reread the commentaries in the modern context, in a language which we will be able to access, which will be understandable to us.
Nowadays, begging has become a business. So are we doing justice to poor children, just giving some point of view?
Big Bazaar, has it not become a business? I am asking you another question. Most often than not, a counter question is the best answer. You tell me, Subway is not a big business. McDonald's, you go there, they give a piece of chicken and a slice of butter maybe. Very good to eat. But does that cost 70 rupees?
But that doesn't guide anyone.
Huh?